Hi, do you ever think about leaving your country and moving overseas? Do you ever think you're going to be able to retire? Wouldn't you like to just pack your bags and head off to some tropical paradise? Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Taylor. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I'm an American expat living in Malaysia, and I like to share my travels and my life with you. Do you ever dream of moving overseas? Do you think you're too old to try it? Well, I'm here to tell you you're not. It's possible. I know, because I did it. First of all, you have to look at yourself and say, what's my personality? Do I like to meet new people? Do I like new experiences? Do I like to try new delicious foods? Well, if you say yes to that, then you're a good candidate, I'll say. If you speak more than one language, it's going to open so much more of the world to you. So much more than it did to me. I've never been good at languages, and so I only speak English. I know, I feel kind of silly and dumb about that, but that's the truth. Anyway, I had to limit my search to countries where English was prevalent. Of course, there's a lot of English-speaking countries in the world, but most of them aren't really affordable as far as retirement. There's South Africa, Nigeria, Malta, India, and a few others. Some of those might be possible to retire in, but for me, I was looking to the Far East. Well, when you look in the Far East, there's really only two choices where English is pretty widely spoken, and that's the Philippines and Malaysia, where I ended up. Since Malaysia was a former British colony, English is widely spoken, especially in the big cities. So, once I had narrowed down where I thought I want to move, I decided I better check it out first, and I started traveling to Malaysia. Since it takes about 30 hours to get here from the US, I wanted to make sure I stayed long enough to make the trip worthwhile. And I came for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. After my first trip, I was pretty much sold on Malaysia, but I had to have a plan. I was only about 55, so I started a 5-year plan so that I could move here by the time I was 60. I have to say it was kind of less scary for me, because in my life I've moved about 35 times, starting in my childhood. My father was in the military, and we moved quite often when I was a little kid. By the time I was 4 years old, we'd lived in Charleston, South Carolina, New Orleans, Louisiana, and Paris, France, and then Florida. My father retired from the military and started running some cottages for rent on the beach in Florida. It was sort of an interesting place to grow up, I'll tell you. Here's a few pictures of me from my childhood. You can see I was actually a cute little boy and not always an ugly old man. When you're visiting the country you're thinking about, it's important to see what part of the city you want to live in, or think you might. For obvious reasons, I was drawn to places where other expats were. Now, it's wonderful to meet locals and become friends with locals, and I have a lot of local friends. But it's also nice to find friends that are from your home country, or at least places that you can relate to. And I don't know, maybe it's a little strange, but I find that people from different parts of the world have different senses of humor. So if you're looking for people with a similar sense of humor as yourself, you're probably going to find it among the expats. Not always, though. Also, when you're moving to another country, you have to think about food. Now, everybody likes the comfort foods of home. I know that. And you have to make sure they have it where you're moving. Now, Malaysia has good Western food. Not the best, but it's decent enough, and it makes me feel like I'm at home sometimes. Of course, there's a wild world of wonderful foods in Malaysia that's really opened my eyes to a bunch of different taste sensations. Some of the things you have to think about in the country you're thinking about moving to is the cost of living. Is it going to be affordable? Because, my home country, the USA, has become unaffordable to me, and I would never have been able to retire. Also, you think about how you're going to do banking in your new country. In Malaysia, you can't even open a bank account unless you have some sort of long-term visa. Now, what I did, I opened an account with HSBC, which has branches both in the United States and in Malaysia. So that makes moving money really easy for me and free. Also, another money thing you have to keep in mind is, does your government pension allow you to live in another country? I know they do in the United States, but there's also countries like New Zealand that require you to spend a certain number of months per year there to receive your government pension. You'll have to check out what your country does. You really need to think about your health too before you go. Do you have any chronic illnesses? If so, you're going to need to have a place that has really good health care. And Malaysia is great for that, as I'm sure plenty of other countries are too. Now, I didn't have any chronic health problems when I moved to Malaysia, but I do have some problems now that are well taken care of by really good doctors here. So I think that visiting is very important before you move. Check it out, check all these things out: housing, medical, whether you're gonna find friends, all that's important. You can't just move sight unseen to the other side of the world. Now, I know a lot of you have very close family ties, and I've talked about this before in other videos. If you're really, really close to your family, it's gonna be difficult, especially if you're alone, to move to another country. Now, with my parents both deceased, and I only have 2 sisters that I'm close to, I have 2 brothers too, but I'm not close to them, it really wasn't a big deal for me. And you know, these days, you can always have a phone call that's free. You can FaceTime, so it's not going to be quite as lonely as it was in the past when you moved far away from home. Don't be afraid if you're alone on this journey. I was. But it helps if you like to just be around yourself. I know I like to go out to eat by myself and just read a good book while I'm eating. I do my artwork too. And I even like traveling alone. I don't have to listen to what anyone else wants to do. I just do what I want. Now that sounds selfish, but it's true. I've even gone on cruises by myself, which turned out really fun. If you're a couple, I think it's probably gonna work out better for you though, but you're both gonna have to wanna move here. There's the rub. Again, visiting the places is gonna help both of you to decide if it's the right place for you and the right move. Also, if you're alone, but looking for love, it's easy to find love in a foreign country. One thing I found is that Americans or Brits or Europeans or just people from outside of Asia are exotic to the people here. So it's easy to meet people who are interested in you and want to date you. And no, not everybody is looking for a sugar daddy or a sugar mama, but you have to keep your eyes open to that. If you like to keep busy with physical activities, that's great. That's going to help you a lot. And it'll help you meet people too. But it can also work if you're just a couch potato. The thing I really like about it is not having to worry about money. Money is a constant concern back home, and it just gives you stress. Think about how stress-free your life can be if you didn't have to worry about money all the time. That's really huge. So for a lot of reasons, as I've explained, it was pretty easy for me to make the move. Since I'd already moved 35 times in my life, I was sure used to that. And because I had moved so many times, I didn't have a lot of superfluous things hanging around because I always got rid of things every time I moved. Of course, you're always going to have special, important things that are important to you that you want to keep, and you should. I found photo albums were a really nice thing to have. You don't have to do what I did, which was sell virtually everything and move halfway around the world with just 2 suitcases. Wow, that was sort of scary. But I did it, and I've been fine. 8 years so far. You can always buy new things in your new country, and they'll have meaning for you too. I have to admit that I haven't cut all ties to the United States. Of course, I still have my sisters that I'm in touch with, and they visit here too. But just to sort of have an escape hatch, I bought a condo in Florida since I've been here, and I rent it out, but it's there for me in case I ever have to move back to the United States. Now, I don't know how I'd be able to afford it, but it's there if I have to. I mean, it's all paid for and everything, but that doesn't mean I could afford it. Not with the money I have today. But it's a lovely apartment in a beautiful area of Florida, so I wouldn't mind living there if I had to. It's not going to be Malaysia, but it would be okay. All I know is that I have a wonderful, fulfilling life here in Malaysia, and I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. I can truly say that. Depending on the country you choose, it can have a good influence on your bad habits. Now, I used to occasionally drink too much. Who doesn't? Well, maybe some people don't, but I used to. But since I've been in Malaysia, I haven't at all. I think it's a couple of reasons. The main reason is probably I don't have any stress about money anymore, which is a big influencer in drinking, I think. Also, the other thing is alcohol is very expensive in Malaysia. And so to keep in my budget, I just don't buy it. I'll occasionally have a beer or a glass of wine when I'm out, but that's about it. And I feel much better too. Another thing I've done since I moved to Malaysia is get a pet. If you follow my channel at all, you've all met Earl Grey, my beautiful cat, who's right there. Yes, baby. And I would say any country is going to have plenty of adoptable pets for you to love. Now, I feel like I saved Earl Grey, but in a lot of ways he saved me too. That's the way it is with pets, don't you think? One thing that's changed for me over the years, and it used to happen to me just when traveling, is that I was just afraid of everything. I was afraid of, I think, making a fool of myself or being embarrassed about doing the wrong thing. If I went in a restaurant or didn't understand what somebody was saying, I just would get all flustered. Now, I have to admit, it's easier since English is widely spoken here in Malaysia, but I'm also forcing myself to just go out and do things that I normally wouldn't do by myself. It almost always turns out fine, I think you'll realize. So don't be afraid. I would never presume that living in a foreign country would work for everybody. It probably wouldn't. But I think it will work for a lot more people. I think it's worth giving it a shot. If you don't want to move all the way to Malaysia, there's certainly countries that are closer to home. As I said, it may not be for everyone, but I have to say it's been the best experience in my entire life. And I feel like I have grown and changed in so many positive ways. So are you ready to pack your bags and move? Or at least start thinking about it? I think you should. Also, I have several other videos on life in Malaysia, retiring to Malaysia, retirement in general, healthcare, all that, all on my channel. Just look under my different playlists. I'm sure you'll find a lot of useful information there. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, could you please like and subscribe? It really helps me and it really means a lot too. As I mentioned before, I'm going to Malacca next week for a trip, and I plan to video a lot of things there, so look forward to that. But because of my travel schedule, I might not get a video up next Wednesday. If I do, it's just going to be an old one that I haven't ever put up yet about cooking mac and cheese. That might be interesting to some of you, anyway. But thanks for taking this armchair journey with me today. I hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you later. Bye.